another installment of Talking Marijuana. This is our year-end installment, and we are your hosts. I'm Barry Kramer. I am the patient operator of California Patients Alliance. We're a GLACA-accredited dispensary here in the Los Angeles area on Melrose. Come and visit us if you're a patient.
And I'm Yami Bolaños. I am the patient operator for Pure Life Alternative Wellness Center. That's moving to Hollywood next week. I'm no longer on La Cienega. And I'm also the president and founder of the Greater Los Angeles Collectors Alliance, the sign of excellence in medical marijuana in the city of Los Angeles since 2006.
And I'm Dan Gabriel, marijuana enthusiast and comedian. And on the phone we have...
Why, hello, Dan. It's Don Duncan calling all the way from Sacramento. I'm the California Director of Americans for Safe Access.
Technology works once again. Fantastic. Nice to be here with all of you. It's been a great year for our first year on vodcasting. And I think this show will do a little year-end wrap-up. We'll talk about some things that have hit our table in the past and where things might be going in the future. And
talk about L.A.,
Yeah, we're going to talk about L.A. This is a big day for Los Angeles and medical marijuana. We'll get into that in a little bit. And Yami is representing ASA very proudly today, wearing an ASA sweatshirt. And Don, who is our ASA director, I thought maybe we'd start with you and we can talk about what ASA's been up to and going forward into the new year and what we have to look forward on advocacy through Americans for Safe Access.
Well, sure, and let me assure you, because you guys can't see me, that I'm wearing a sweatshirt and sweatpants and a hat and a hoodie and the whole ASA regalia right now.
It's highly doubtful.
You have your ASA underwear on?
It must be cold there in Sacramento.
Opted for the ASA long underwear. It's been kind of cold here. So it's an exciting time, actually, going into 2014. It's also kind of a scary time. So let me check in and make sure you guys can hear me okay.
We can.
Sound all right?
Yep,
Yeah.
everything's great.
Okay, I've got a little echo, but I can live with it. So I want to, first of all, let you guys know something exciting that's happening today. Just today, ASA has sent a press release announcing the beginning of a new program that we've created. It's 7 years in the making at Americans for Safe Access. It's called Patient-Focused Certification. And Patient-Focused Certification is a third-party certification program that ASA is launching together with the American Herbal Products Association and the American Herbal Pharmacopoeia to certify the production, packaging, processing, and distribution of medical cannabis. And so we're rolling out our distribution certification today. Collective cooperatives, dispensaries, and other organizations around the country can now apply to be patient-focused certified. Which is uses actual, honest-to-God industry standards, the same that you would see in the rest of the herbal products movement, to certify the distribution of botanical medicine. And so we're really excited about this because this is an opportunity in 2014 for us to really differentiate medical cannabis as a botanical medicine, as an herbal medicine, as opposed to a dangerous drug. And so we're really excited about the program. People can go online right now and check it out. And if you're involved in the distribution of medical cannabis legally under your state laws, you can apply for certification. And we really hope that people will do this in the short term because this is going to become sort of the new sign of standard and excellence in terms of operational issues. Now, again, we're not dealing with local licensing or permitting here. We're dealing with industry-wide certification in terms of safety, quality control, and other kinds of things that the herbal medicine movement has been dealing with for years. And so we're really sort of coming of age with this, and we're just very, very excited. There are going to be online training programs for staff. We've got the first one up already. We've got a certification specialist who will be visiting collective cooperatives, dispensaries, and other organizations, helping them get up to speed and ready. And then we're going to start certifying people in 2014 to be PFC certified for medical cannabis. Our goal is that we're going to build amongst the constituency of medical cannabis a desire and a demand and an awareness of this certification. And we're also hoping it's going to be a part of regulatory schemes moving forward at local and state level, that this sort of certification will be encouraged or required under regulatory schemes. And so this is really a big day for us. You know, we're sort of joining the mainstream of the herbal products, the botanical medicine movement, and sort of hopefully leaving behind the baggage of illegal drugs and all of that business.
Yeah.
So I really see today as coming of age.
So this is a lot like restaurants with a grade on the window, so you know what you're getting into before you...
Interesting, yeah.
Kind of, yeah. That's the idea. This is something that happens if we look out to botanical medicines. The people who produce echinacea have certain standards to which it has to be cultivated, and the people who package it and process it and provide it to the public all have to meet certain professional standards. And this is really industry-driven regulatory scheme. The Food and Drug Administration tried on several occasions in the past to sort of clamp down on herbal medicine and say, you can't sell St. John's wort, you can't sell echinacea. And the industry, the American Herbal Products Association and other players in the industry stood up and said, no, we can regulate this, and we can do it safely and professionally, and we can make this work for the consumers. And they've done a great job, first of all, of backing down the FDA, but then working with the FDA and the other federal agencies to come up with a way to regulate herbal medicines that's different than pharmaceutical drugs. And so we're really excited about the idea that herbal medicine, medical cannabis as herbal medicine, can be regulated at a federal level differently than prescription drugs. And that's really exciting to me because that's one of our great fears, right, is that big pharmaceutical companies will come in with GMO cannabis and take over the industry.
Right.
And this is a different path. This is a path towards community-based access that preserves patient self-sufficiency, but also gives them some reassurance that when they're visiting an organization that provides medical cannabis, that it's meeting certain criteria to protect their safety. So I think we're on a good path, and I want to encourage folks to go to patientfocusedcertification.org and read all about it. It's a great program.
Sounds great. Is this so? Just to clarify, the organization that you're working with, the Herbal Organization, that's an national organization whose findings are accepted nationally by herbalists, I guess.
I think one way to look at the American Herbal Products Association, which is really the national leader in industry advocacy for botanical medicines and herbal products, is they're sort of the Americans for Safe Access of the herbal medicine world.
Awesome. Yeah,
of the herbal products world. They've been the ones who've been sort of taking the reins and saying, no, we don't need an FDA crackdown on herbal products. We just need cooperation and standardization within the industry. And so they've helped steer the herbal products and herbal medicine industry away from bans and away from FDA control and being synthesized in a laboratory to say, no, it's okay, we can have St. John's wort. We can actually have the plant St. John's wort and use that as a botanical medicine, and it's okay. We can do it properly. And, that's something we've been hearing from regulators all across the country about medical cannabis is, there are no standards, it can't be regulated, it's too dangerous, and we've always known that's nonsense. But this sort of third-party approach where the people who are providing the medicine it's not the fox guarding the hen house. We're not saying that the industry is regulating itself. We're going to say that the industry is bringing in people with decades of experience in how to do this in order to provide that certification. And so the American Herbal Products Association has helped us develop these standards, and I'm really excited, too, that just last week the American Herbal Pharmacopoeia just published the Cannabis Monograph, which is a scientific description of the cannabis plant, which seems sort of dry and wonky, but what this means is that cannabis is kind of coming back to where it was in 1937, back as an accepted herbal medicine. The American Herbal Pharmacopoeia has done 28 or 30 of these herbal monographs, which create the scientific basis and standard for which research and safety and dosage can be based. And so even though most people will never see a cannabis monograph, what it means that cannabis is returning to the shelf of the drugstore as a legitimate herbal medicine, where it should have been all along.
Yeah.
Most people don't realize that cannabis didn't leave the American Pharmacopoeia, the U.S. Pharmacopoeia, until 1942.
Right.
And it didn't become an illegal drug until 1970. And so, it hasn't been that long that cannabis has been basically an illegal drug, and it's really time for it to come home as an herbal medicine. And so that's going to be a big part of our focus in 2014 is this idea that we've come back to the drugstore shelf as a legitimate, scientifically accepted herbal medicine.
Well, hopefully, in tying in with some of what we've discussed on previous shows, that would allow for a real clear and significant change between recreational marijuana and medical marijuana, and a significant difference, and also different oversights on those kinds of things. So maybe going forward into 2014 and beyond, we might find more acceptable ways of running both programs than, let's say, Washington has been dealing with lately, although we'll update that as well. We've had some
Right.
good news this
Well,
week.
You know, Barry, I'm glad you mentioned that because Washington State right now, we were talking last week with an activist from Washington State,
Right.
and that's an example of what happens when medical cannabis is regulated like a dangerous drug or a drug of abuse. And it's going terribly. It's going just terribly in Washington State. And so, you know, looking at that, we think, don't go down that path. We don't need the DEA regulating medicine. That's not their thing. Let them deal with dangerous drugs.
Absolutely.
What we want professionals and people with years of experience in herbal medicine regulating medical cannabis. It's the middle path between just put it underground and ignore it, or on the other end saying we're going to clamp down on this and crack down and nobody can have it and it's going to be, all sort of hypothetical. But there's a middle ground, and that's herbal medicine and botanical medicine. And that's really where ASA wants to see medical cannabis go.
Well, that's good. I think that's a great path to...
Yeah, herbal medicine covering it so much better than the alcohol board covering it because they...
Absolutely, yeah.
Yep.
Oops, did we
What
lost
happened?
Did we lose you?
I'm still
Oh,
here.
no, okay, we're good. He's still there.
We got you. Well, sounds like ASA has its work cut out for him for the years ahead, as
So,
always.
Barry, I want to mention one more thing, is that folks are probably saying, what is all this crazy herbal medicine stuff about? And I want to invite people, too, to come meet me in Washington, D.C. in April. The first weekend in April, we're going to have our second National Medical Cannabis Conference, and the folks from AHPA and the American Herbal Pharmacopoeia and professionals in the herbal medical industry are going to be there in force at our conference. We're really going to make this an herbal medicine, botanical medicine conference in Washington, D.C. So
Good.
go to AmericansFirstAidAccess.org and sign up. You can actually get half-price registration starting not today, but soon. Starting January 1st, you'll be able to get your registration at half price in Washington, D.C. So come see us. It's a whole new world, a whole new frame of medical cannabis that can take us to the majority, to the middle. And I think work around all of this backlash and crackdown we're seeing.
Yeah, we'll keep reminding people as we enter the new year that this is coming up, and it sounds like a great conference. That's gonna happen.
It's great that herbal medicine is helping take care of this because I remember back when before the herbal medicine was regulated and you used to have to pick a lot of seeds and stems out of your echinacea. And get some swag, St. John's wort off
St.
some
guy
guy on the
actually
street.
had warts in it.
It was a bad time. So if they can,
I know, yeah.
if they can clean up that mess.
Let's another tap back into a previous episode that we had. This past week, I'm trying to think where I had this one. I think it was Steve Elliott.
We have to take a break in a minute.
Say what?
We have to take a break in a minute.
Oh, we're going to take a break in a minute. So we're going to come back. We're going to talk about Steve Elliott, who was here last week. He's a Washington State advocate, advocates for medical marijuana, and is very concerned about the path that the Liquor Board was taking up in Washington State. They had some slight bit of good news this week, but Steve put it in perspective in a little blog that he put out, and we'll come back and
We'll talk about
that blog. See you after the break.
Upcoming shows to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Welcome to FY. It's Dimitri Young here with Robert Fick. Hey everybody, welcome to Talking Marijuana.
Hi everybody, Crabman's Rock and Roll Revival featuring Frazier Smith is on the air, in your hair, and going out everywhere around the world.
I'm Gary Garver, live from the John Lovitz Comedy Club.
This is the John Lovitz Podcast Network.
Hi, John Lovitz here. It's time to put laughter back into your life. Check out the John Lovitz Comedy Club, located in the heart of Universal Studios City Walk, Los Angeles, not Orlando. For tickets, go to thejohnlovitzcomedyclub.com.
You are listening to the John Lovitz Podcast Network.
Welcome back, everyone, to Talking Marijuana. And I'm Barry Kramer.
I'm Yami Bolanos.
I'm Dan Gabriel.
And on the phone is Don Duncan from Sacramento.
Hello, everyone.
So we're kind of wrapping up the year. We're looking at some old stories that we've touched on here, and one of them last week, as a matter of fact, that old. We had Steve Elliott from Washington State here. He's an advocate for medical marijuana patients. And we went into the whole ordeal last week that the state liquor board, who has control over the regulations or recommendations for regulating legalized marijuana, pretty much wanted to fold medical marijuana program into the legal marijuana program, and thereby taking away and stripping the rights of medical marijuana patients drastically. One of the major rights that they stripped from the medical marijuana patients, or were recommending, was that there be no home grows anymore. Now, many patients rely on this, A, for economics, B, for just to supplement what they're getting from dispensaries, so they don't, it's mostly economics, that they don't have to spend the money for this. And many patients are not in a position to spend a lot of money.
Or get into a car to go
Or get
pick
into a
up their
car and go pick up.
medicine.
And
This
if
way
they
can
are
do
able
their
to grow,
backyard.
that's good. So the state liquor board, under intense pressure from organizations like Steve Elliott's and other patient advocacy groups,
people were up in arms.
super intense pressure, has reversed that decision.
That's
and
great.
they've recommended that patients be allowed to have limited grow. Now,
that's great.
I'm going to read this from
It's not
Steve.
that great,
It's
though.
not that great, really.
Not
it's
that
it's
great.
good because we'll take anything
Anything
over
forward,
nothing.
any motion forward is good.
But here's what Steve says. Steve wrote a blog in the Seattle Weekly this week, and basically he says, it always takes me a minute. The liquor board members last week said that they now recommend patients be allowed to grow up to 6 plants, 3 flowering and 3 non-flowering. Patients are currently allowed to grow up to 15 plants at any stage of growth. The board failed to explain why the 15 plant limit arrived at by the legislature after conferring with experts is being abandoned. So it seems like a willy-nilly. They're sort of saying, okay, we'll allow patients to grow, but we're going to severely curtail what they can grow.
They're throwing the patients a bone. That's all they're doing.
Right,
It's-
because
it's
there
almost
were-
insulting.
But let me point out that in politics, it's very often about compromise, and if we've gone from 0 plants to 3 plants or 6 plants, that is a step in the right direction.
Absolutely.
And besides, the legislature can still disagree, right?
And the reaction to this is also, on both sides, patients are happy but not exuberant. There's many other things, how much a patient is allowed to possess, and tax issues that are also problematic for patients in Washington State. But
this is still just their recommendation,
It's
right?
just their recommendation, but
this isn't law
they
yet.
carry an amazing amount of weight. Their recommendations are probably going to fly through the legislature
It's
because of
typically the case that they get rubber stamped. That's
yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Okay.
So my point here being that
Yes, you should have one of those.
I don't. I always lose my point. I have so much when I come in here every week. I have so much I want to say that my
Mary,
head just.
that's a side effect of your medicine.
That's okay. It's one that I can live with. So at the end of this blog, Steve goes to write. I'll finish with the last 2 paragraphs. The board wants to allow only those recreational marijuana stores that get a state endorsement for medical marijuana to serve patients. But state officials haven't yet determined what the criteria would be for such an endorsement. That means a number of the recreational stores might not be endorsed to sell to medical patients, leaving medical marijuana patients with even fewer safe access points. And he says, very sarcastically in his last paragraph, it's too bad there's not already an existing system of medical marijuana collectives which specifically exist to serve patients. Oh wait, there is, but the state has decided it's bad for profits. Business.
Bad for
so
business.
we're seeing this Washington State experiment playing out as the state really wanting one thing: money. No
It's
concern
all
for why they're getting the money or the compassion or
No.
the patients or what. They just want to make sure they get their
They
money.
just want money. It's so interesting to me that they were able to convince the whole state of people to go ahead and pass something that obviously only is over
Well,
financial gain for the state.
Steve was telling us patients were confused about this. They said it wasn't going to hurt medical marijuana when they were campaigning for it.
Right. Well, they campaigned saying
They
that.
said it. They didn't write it down.
Yeah, and this is terrible. Even if it is a step forward, allowing them to have 6 plants, that's such. It's so sad for the patients of Washington. I'm glad that they're up in arms and that they're protesting. Hopefully, they'll make enough noise to get some more plants that they can grow. Or something.
Well, and there
to
have
go
been
down.
organizations, not patient organizations, but organizations that support legal marijuana that have said, patients aren't going to get anything in Washington. They should not even start the fight. Just be happy with what there is. And we've seen now that at least there's been some pushback, and that I think that pushback has a lot of weight. We're talking about medical patients. You're always bringing in sick patients that are. We have so many patients that are using this now that are benefiting from it. It's not like we have to go scour the country to say how is this helping medicinally for people, and I think that helps our situation a lot. So patient advocates should never give up this fight. We have to continue to fight for safe access and all the ground that's been gained over the 15 years, 17 years of this fight. So moving on to Colorado, which is also in the process of legalizing marijuana come January 1st. Now they have something coming on board, which is a tracking system. When you were talking about ASA's system of certification, this doesn't quite overlap that, but it's an interesting interesting system. I don't know how it's going to work. I'm going to read it to you and
Is it
explain
tiny microchips that embed themselves into your lungs so that they can track you?
It's in the THC molecule, so when you smoke it, you have now
And then the
nanobots
man
in
knows
your
where
body.
you are.
No, don't listen to me at all. That's not what this article is about. Totally making that one up. Okay, so
You just scared the shit out of a lot of stutters.
I sure did. Although some of them went, whoa, man, nanobots in my body.
I thought I was alone.
Let's go to the left. Let's go to the right. Okay.
Thousands of stoners across California just like, oh god.
So in Colorado, the headline on this is out of the Denver Post, and it's John Ingold from the Denver Post writing. I'm going to try, as we continue with this show, to credit the people that are writing these articles that we talk about. Forgive me for all the people in the last year, and as we go forward, that's my New Year's resolution. So thank you, John Ingold. And the article is basically about Colorado denying more medical marijuana business applications. It's really a question of, I think, catching up. It got clogged in the crazy system of the government, but they noticed that since the state began accepting medical marijuana business applications in 2010, it's approved 1,402 and denied 226, a denial rate of about 1 in 7. Between January and September of this year, the state denied only 1 application, according to a state report. But since September, when they're gearing up for the legalization in January, regulators have acted on 217 applications and denied 51. A nearly 1 in 4 denial clip, according to the figures from the Colorado Marijuana Enforcement Division. So it sounds as if they're slowing down a little bit on who they're giving licenses out to. They have a lot of licenses out there.
Because it's a different business now.
Exactly.
It's, you don't need a prescription at all. You can walk right in. Anybody can walk right in. It's stoned bucks.
Absolutely. So then the article goes on to explain that there is a new regulatory system that they're going to be putting into place January 1. Meanwhile, regulators on Wednesday unveiled a $1.2 million marijuana tracking system they hope will keep Colorado cannabis businesses, both medical and recreational, in line. This online system is called MITS for Marijuana Inventory Tracking Solution. And it requires marijuana businesses to place radio frequency tags on every plant they grow and every bag of pot they move from their grow rooms and their sales rooms. Information from the tags must be entered into MITS to keep tabs on marijuana's location up until its sale. Businesses will also be required to track the weight of their harvested marijuana and enter that into MITS. The MITS system is really critically important tool for our ongoing regulation of the marijuana system in Colorado. The head of the Colorado Department says it's expected to be up and running January 1st when recreational marijuana stores can sell pot. Now, I'm going to stop there because my first thought when I read that was, okay, Obamacare and the website that was rolled out on their day.
Then
Now, they
works.
really expect this website to be tracking marijuana as of January 1st. I think that's going to take quite a long time to put in. And can you imagine me as a businessman going home at night and entering all this information
Who
into
gives you the
state?
tags?
I don't.
Is it a
Do they cost
barcode
money?
that just you check in
not
at
a
every
barcode. It's,
stop, like
It's
a
radio
UPS?
frequency, so it's like a
So let
tag.
me,
So you
Let's
can
let
tell.
Don. What do you got going on, Don?
let me play devil's advocate here and say that there's a big problem right now with the perception of diversion from Colorado. And I say perception because I don't want to incriminate anybody, but some people would suggest, and in fact maybe a lot of people, that there's a ton of cannabis being cultivated as marijuana under the auspices of, in Colorado rather, the auspices of the medical program, and that much of that might be flowing out of state. We've even heard this accusation on the floor of Congress. And so something that can help reassure people in other states and people in Colorado that cannabis is staying in Colorado and doing what it was intended to do might actually be good for the credibility of the medical marijuana program and might help forestall what I fear is a coming backlash against legalization. I think that with 2 states producing legal medical marijuana, our foes are gathering in the wings, and they're probably getting ready to push back. And if Colorado can make a credible claim and say, we're controlling the supply of cannabis within our state, I don't think that's a horrible thing.
Well, I don't either. I think the impetus behind this is not a bad idea at all. To be able, we have to find a way to regulate. I just question the efficiency of something like this. We'll have to see. I mean, this is what 2014 is going to bring. We're going to see how the experiments play out in Colorado and Washington, and these details they're all going to come online. All these different ways of tracking, and we're going to see how they work, and that's what the experiment is for.
You know, there's plenty of times that I lose weed, and it'd be nice to know if there's a website I can go to just find.
You'll have an
or like
app on your
attach one of
phone.
those things where I whistle like Dixie, and then it.
Well, you know, on the
whistles
iPhone
back
they
to
have
me.
the Find My iPhone, so now they'll
Dan,
just
they
have
have,
Find
they
My
have it on the iPhone
Herb.
already. We can do this with cannabis.
Okay, let's start that.
So I thought
Start
that was a very interesting
that is
development in Colorado. And you know, as things are coming up, we're hearing about all this has been in the works for quite a while. This system. It's being built by a firm in Florida, so I have great doubts for its working abilities. But you know, we'll see how.
Now we just lost Florida.
Mississippi and now Florida. Oh well.
So we'll see how things work. But
If you really want.
For all of the 2 people that are listening to us, that's Angelo, by the way.
Yeah, that's Angelo.
That's the voice of Angelo.
Yeah.
And I'll be in Florida after Christmas. Bring it, people.
Bring it on. We had an old advocate rear his wonderful head this week as well. Not able to bring up the article, but I'll try as we stay here. But his name is Irv Rosenfeld. And
Irv.
Yeah, Irv Rosenfeld is one
He
of...
used to be my stockbroker.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Why used to be? No, let's not go into that. Okay. So, anyways, let me explain who he is. Irv is one of 4 surviving patients, federal medical marijuana patients. Every month, he receives 300 marijuana cigarettes rolled in a beautiful tin right to his door from the federal government in a program.
Ditchweed.
Yeah?
It's ditchweed.
Of course it's ditchweed.
yeah.
That's why he gets 300 of them. But,
Yeah, because poor thing has to smoke one right after another like that.
So this program was instituted, do you know that? I don't
1982.
1982, and it was abandoned in 1990.
It was closed by Bush Sr.,
Right.
who said no further applications.
So they had at that point 30 or 40 patients, 20 or 30 patients that were in this, and Irv was one of them. Irv lives in Florida now. And, Florida is gearing up this year in 2014 to have a big fight to push for medical marijuana. One of the big, we've talked about this in the past here, one of the big advocates for that is a local attorney in Florida. He has put up close to, at last count I read it, close to $1 million to promote and get this on the ballot and to move this medical marijuana forward in Florida. For some reason, Irv has tried to get a hold of John Morgan. John Morgan is the lawyer. And John Morgan hasn't returned his call. So, John, I know you listen to our show every week. Please call back Irv. He's a really important guy to get on your side. Now, one of the reasons I thought maybe John isn't doing that is because he doesn't know the real history of medical marijuana and who this man is.
He just thinks he has 300 lousy joints.
Right. Irv is 60 years old right now. He has survived and lived with a crippling bone disease that really the marijuana is the only thing that served the purpose that he needs. And he smoked. In the article said somewhere over 100,000, 130,000 marijuana cigarettes in the time that he's a poster child for nothing's going wrong if you smoke this much. You're going to be able to function. He is an accountant, is what you're telling me, right, Don?
Stockbroker, right?
Stockbroker, living a very successful working career. He works, he smokes all day long while he works. Of course, he does that in private and away from people, but this guy's been around for a long time, and I think he's a black eye on the government just because he exists. Well, and the more he can talk and tell people that he exists, the better we are. So
you're going to get him murdered just bringing him up.
No, he's awesome. He's been in documentaries, and he puts himself out there quite a bit, and as well he should.
Well, it's hypocritical of the federal government to give him 300 joints a month because of his medical condition and then say that it has no medical value.
Right.
So he's a living, talking example of what a lie the federal government is.
And he gets the marijuana from the University of Mississippi. Right? They're the only, and they are allowed through the federal government. They're the only entity that can grow and test and do things with marijuana. Right, Don?
That's right, yeah. Dr. El Soleil at the University of Mississippi is the only legal marijuana grower in the United States.
And every month he sends 300 marijuana cigarettes, swag, to 4 patients that are still
How did the
surviving.
University of Mississippi get that gig?
Well, way back in the day,
so Don doesn't like Mississippi.
A glaucoma patient sued the federal government for access to marijuana right after it was put on the Controlled Substances Act. And part of the settlement of that lawsuit was to create the Investigational New Drug Program, and they had to license somebody to grow marijuana. So Dr. El Soleil at the University of Mississippi got the contract.
Wow.
That's how it happened.
That's how it happened. You would think after all these years he would have perfected his growing techniques.
Well,
he probably has. He grows good swag. That's what he grows. He doesn't even know to grow anything better than that.
Well, Dr. El Soleil is a smart guy, but what we need is competition. Americans for Safe Access tried a couple of years ago to get a second contract for growing marijuana for Dr. Lyle Craker, and that application was denied. So we still don't have any competition in the world of growing marijuana.
Yeah, one day soon, sooner than later. We're hoping. Another story that we touched on recently was future hopeful presidential candidate Chris Christie, governor of New Jersey. This guy. Okay.
He's a
so
trip and a
I
half,
think we were talking
walking.
I think we were talking last
meanie.
week where he
looks
said,
like a blue meanie.
this is what he said, I am done expanding the medical marijuana program under any circumstances, he said December 2nd. The governor made his declaration after he was asked about a new bill, and this speaks a little bit to what you were talking about, Don, with marijuana leaving one state and coming to another state. But this is a legal structure for it. He says the governor made his declaration. The new bill would allow New Jersey medical marijuana patients to buy pot products from dispensaries in other states, so sick children would benefit from edible marijuana, which is not yet available in the Garden State. Not on my watch, says Chris Christie. That same day that he said that, Philip and Paula Jonah said goodbye to their 15-month-old daughter, Sabina Rose, as she was taken off life support at St. Barnabas Medical Center in Livingston. Their baby's battle with Dravet syndrome, a severe form of epilepsy, was over. Gone too was the family's hope. So sad. That medical marijuana could have helped. After seeing videos and interviews with families in Colorado who credited a strain of medical marijuana, we've talked about this almost every week, with preventing life-threatening seizures in their children, the Jonases were desperate to try it. He was looking for jobs in Colorado so he could move, so that they can get the strain that they needed to be bought, but she died before they could move. She died in her home state of New Jersey's medical marijuana. She died before her home state of New Jersey's medical marijuana program was ready to help these children in crisis 4 years after the law was enacted. Why should we have to leave New Jersey? This is where we live. So they have a state legislator is now trying to put in an amendment, and this is the amendment that Chris Christie said, forget it. I'm just not going to look at any more amendments. I don't care what they have to do with
Like
it.
he's God. Like he's God, and he can make that decision. I hope he can sleep at night knowing that that little girl died on his watch.
On his watch.
On his watch.
On
She
his
died. She
watch.
died on his watch.
Sad.
And I hope that he can live with that, because that's really, really sad. Those poor parents that are trying to get medicine for their children because they want him to stay alive. They don't want to get him high. I don't know what the hell his problem is.
Well, he's going to run into problems. I think, as we get close to the 2016 election, I really feel like legalization is going to be an issue that candidates are going to have to talk about. This is not the low-hanging fruit anymore. This is going to be something that votes are going to count on, and he is way on the wrong side of history for this.
He sure is.
Not that it will stop him from being president if that's where his projection is going, but it's going to factor in.
It's ridiculous to deny anybody medicine just because you don't take that medicine.
Exactly, or you don't believe in it or whatever.
It's unbelievably ridiculous and cruel.
And selfish.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Anyway, I think we have to go to station break.
Are we ready for station identification? Station identification. We will return afterwards and complete our year-end wrap-up. Thanks for tuning in.
This is the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Upcoming shows to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Welcome to FY. It's Dimitri Young here with Robert Fick. Hey everybody, welcome to Talking Marijuana.
Hi everybody, Crabman's Rock and Roll Revival featuring Frazier Smith is on the air, in your hair, and going out everywhere around the world.
I'm Gary Garver, live from the John Lovitz Comedy Club.
This is the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Hi, John Lovitz here. It's time to put laughter back into your life. Check out the John Lovitz Comedy Club, located in the heart of Universal Studios City Walk, Los Angeles, not Orlando. For tickets, go to thejohnlovitzcomedyclub.com.
You are listening to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
We are back, coming to you from Universal City Walk, the John Lovitz Comedy Network that we broadcast from here at the John Lovitz Comedy Theater, and that is in Los Angeles, California. Today, December 17th, is a big day here in Los Angeles, California, and I think let's start by giving you a little history. We're going to go local for a minute because it just means so much to us. Yami and I are dispensary operators here in the city of Los Angeles. We've talked earlier in the year about Measure D, which was a measure that was passed here by a vote of the people in May, which allowed for 134 dispensaries only to qualify for business in the city of Los Angeles. Those 134 dispensaries had registered in 2007 with the city and have always kept that status to be able to be the legal dispensaries here in the city. We have over 1,000 dispensaries in Los Angeles, and there has been always a question of enforcement. Now, Measure D outlined that come December 17th, if you were one of those 134 dispensaries, you had to be in what is called a compliant location, or you would lose your limited immunity and you would just join the rest of the 800 or 900 dispensaries that were intended to be closed down. So that day is today. All dispensaries that wanted to move forward through the Measure D process, legal process of continuing work as a medical marijuana dispensary, needed to be in a compliant location. Compliance was defined by distance from sensitive use. Pretty much that's what this date was about.
600 feet from sensitive use areas, and a bunch of other little rules, that they put in there just to make it a little bit more difficult.
So, let's put it in perspective. A number of years ago, when I opened my business, I was informed by a very knowledgeable man. I think his name was Don Duncan of Americans for Safe Access.
Oh, that guy.
That guy who said, gave me some very good advice. He said, find a spot that is, going to be 1,000 feet from all sensitive use, and you'll know that you'll always be able to stay in that spot. And so our search took us literally about 8 months to scour the city of Los Angeles, finding a location that would be 1,000 feet from this church or that school or this karate club or whatever might be, a park, whatever was sensitive use. And so for this December 17th deadline, I personally have not had much blood and sweat. I feel fortunate, but it was due to due diligence, and others did not have that good fortune. And so what happened was they needed, by this date, today, December 17th, to have moved into a compliant location or they will lose their immunity. So Yami, on the other hand, who's operated an amazing dispensary for 8 years here in the city of Los Angeles, has always known that when push comes to shove, she's going to have to find a place.
Because you're right next door to a preschool.
I'm going to let you take it over.
Yeah. I opened up about 1.5 years before Barry did. And so when I was out looking for a spot to open, I had 100 people tell me no. So I finally found a guy that said yes. And so I called the same Don Duncan.
That same guy.
That same guy. And I said, I think I'm about 500 feet from a school because we measured it with the measuring stick, right? And he said to me, take it. It'll be at least 5 years before the city figures this out. Well, here we are. He was right, 8 years later. And we're in a non-compliant spot. It's 138 feet from a school. And so I had to move. Okay, before Measure M passed, if we had moved to a compliant spot, we would have lost our right to exist. So we had to wait for Measure D to pass in order to move to be legal. So for the last 7 months, because I was very confident that Measure D would pass, we've been looking for a compliant location. And I have to tell you that I'd like to write a book about the scum and the pieces of shit that I had to deal with in the last 6 months trying to find a compliant spot.
Everybody keep in mind that today is December 17th.
Today's December 17th. I registered my compliant spot yesterday, okay? So it was up until yesterday that I didn't have a compliant spot, and I registered the compliant spot. Glauca people, my Glaucans, we have 58 people that are affiliated with Glauca. There's only 8 of us as of yesterday that haven't found a spot. But the city itself is not faring that well. There's probably only 80 dispensaries at this point that have found a compliant spot. So of the 135 that were supposed to exist, we're way below where we're supposed to be. I have to say that I believe very strongly that even though we had our own initiative on the ballot this year, we stood with the city and we helped them pass their initiative. We paid for it. We still owe money on the initiative. There's people that are going to die today and they still paid money. Their businesses are dying, but they've paid money, to have Measure D pass. And that's not fair. The city has not, we have stood with the city and the city has not stood with us. There's 8 of my Glaucans that may have to close their businesses today, and that's killing me because none of us should be in that position. And I shouldn't have been in the position that I was either. The city created a situation where all the evil people, the greedy people, the mafia people, the criminal people came out and tried to take advantage of the rest of us.
And the way they came out to take advantage was many organizations, they needed to move. They needed to be in a compliant spot. And whether for financial reasons or just the fact that in the city of Los Angeles, the way the map lays out, it is very difficult to move into a spot that would be compliant with these location distances.
And had the
so
city
people-
enforced on the illegal situations that exist in this city, there's more than 1,000 clubs. So there's at least 1,000 illegal situations. And if the city and the city attorney and the mayor of the city had done their job and gone out and done the correct enforcement, I wouldn't have any of my Glockens having to close their businesses today. And this is the city's fault. And I'm very, very angry because we helped the city do something that they needed to do, was establish regulations in the city of Los Angeles. And now that we've done that, they're turning their back on those people that worked so hard with them and that stood with them for the last 6 or 7 years. And I'm very angry about it,
Yeah,
yes.
and it comes down to, on their end, a legal excuse. They say this is the law, and
More
the
than a
law
fault.
has to be followed. No matter which side, we can't play favorites. This is the law. They recently, the city had a meeting, the city attorney and I think a city councilman for the area that this was in, where neighborhood organization came together and didn't want a medical marijuana dispensary to move into this particular location. And the city attorney said, you know what? It's a legal location, and that's the law. They're allowed to move in there. Whether you like it or not is not really concerned. It's the
Can't-
law. And so if they're saying that to neighborhood organizations, the city feels they need to also say December 17th is the date. We can't extend this date because we like you or think that you should remain open. You had 6 months to do it. It's a real cut and dry and horrible way to execute the law, but that is their
I know this would get messy, but can't they go to one of the non-Prop D compliant dispensaries that's in a compliant
Yeah,
location
and we did that, and they all-
kick them out and
No.
put in a plug-in?
Well, they
somebody
could
who
if they
is-
had the will, but they don't have the will to do that. They didn't do it. And they certainly aren't going to say, okay, we've opened up this space now, Yami, we have a space for you. They're not interested in
No, they
in
called me and
organizing.
said, Yami, I got this space. It's illegal, but it's compliant. I'm illegal. The spot is compliant. Give me $120,000 and it's yours. Nothing to do with the lease or what I was going to have to negotiate with the owner. Just give them
Yami's talking about
$120,000.
Really? You got that
Yeah.
phone call?
That's
Oh
not
my
from-
God! You
that's-
don't know the phone calls I've gotten. The experiences that I've had in the last 6 months. I want to write a book about, and I wish I could name names so everybody can see what pieces of shit, greedy people are involved in this business in the city of Los Angeles. No,
Just
they
change
don't.
one
You're not
letter in
going
their
to.
name.
So we're not going to name names.
No,
I know
we're
you
not
all
gonna
were
name
expecting
names.
that. It might come in our final segment, but I doubt it. And Yami's emotions, I'm just going to continue to point this out, are so high and indicative of what's going on today in the city of Los Angeles and indicative of what goes on in all the states
In all the
when patients cannot rely on the safe access to their medicines.
The laws that have
She's upset
passed.
about her business, yes, but her business serves patients. Our businesses of Glacka clubs that now can no longer be open, those served patients that really need this medicine, and they've been serving patients for years in a above the board legal way. And what's happened now is that the shift to get ready for December 17th today has realigned a lot of these organizations. People that were not making a lot of money were taking offers from outsiders who would come in and finance their move to a compliant location, but they gave up their business. They now have a
huge
new
percentages
a
of
new
their-
person that operates that dispensary, and even though they have a part of it, they might not have the say that they had, and so new techniques are going to be brought into this dispensary, and and a
All
lot
kinds
of
of
these people
different
that were
things.
coming in with the money are looking to make money. They're
That's
not
all
looking
they want.
to serve patients.
No, all they want to do is make
And,
money, and that is incredibly sad to me. That the welfare of so many patients are going to be left in the hands of these greedy people.
And as
the other
Don
thing,
and Yami and I have always said, the patient's needs are so important. It's and that is the reason for the separation between legal marijuana and medical marijuana. And within medical marijuana, that's the separation between people that are really putting out an effort to help patients live their lives in a full and complete way, and people that are just opening up a business to make some dough. And unfortunately, it's all gotten kind of mixed in together, and that's the world we live in. So we,
I know, in
we
Los
have
Angeles.
to try to
The
figure
other
sort
thing
of
is
it out.
that the city attorney and the mayor of the city say that everyone has to follow the law. Well, I'm so glad that I got a spot and was able to register yesterday because I'm staying alive now. And I'm going to stay alive to make sure that everybody follows the law, including the city councilmen that have said that no one can service their patients in his community because it's against the federal law. But he's not a federal employee. He's an employee of the city of Los Angeles. And I'm coming for you, dude. Your section will have safe access in it when we're done. The entire city will be following the law. The entire city.
It's hot in here. Let me just tell you that right now. It is hot coming off of Yami right now.
It's just not fair. It's
not.
not fair.
It's really
not
not
fair
fair.
what they're doing. You know, there's all these people looking for compliant spots, and there's a whole district in the city of Los Angeles that doesn't have one. Why? Because the city councilman doesn't believe in it. And because he feels that federally it's forbidden, and so while it's forbidden federally, then he won't have it in his area. Well, he has to follow the law, too. And I'm going to make sure that he does. Everyone's going to follow the law, everybody.
And that's how an advocate works.
I just
You take your anger and you channel it. I
That's
know there's
right.
people sitting out there that are angry about the situation in their state, in their city. They're banned from having dispensaries. That's the anger you need to channel and take it to the people that can make a difference. Get involved.
Be strategic.
You have to be strategic. Yes, I'm not going to go off.
Sometimes
you know,
rein it in, and
but he's gonna. You know what? Everyone has to follow the law. That's what the mayor and the city attorney keep saying. Everyone has to follow the law. Well, I'm going to make sure everybody does. Just
What's
like
interesting,
we had to.
What's interesting, Don, is you talk about the political system. Always sort of getting down to compromise. That's how it works the best.
Almost all the time, right?
And I think what Yami's expressing is that we've compromised so much over the
We
length,
have,
and the compromise is coming from the opposite end. Law enforcement, our government, our city are so few and so little and so
They are, but
meaningless that
here's the thing we have to remember. In a negotiation, you have two sides, and they have relative positions of strength and weakness. The only way that we can negotiate on equal terms with the police department, with the city council, or on a larger scale with the state legislature or Congress is if we're powerful and big.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes from numbers. We don't have a lot of money in our movement, believe it or not. We don't have connections to the halls of power. All we have are numbers. And one thing that's been constantly dismaying to me is the almost complete absence of patience in the advocacy work in the last few years in Los Angeles. If every time the city council met to discuss this, there were 200 or 300 patients, which is not outrageous in a city the size of Los Angeles, like the old days, and we used to pack City Hall standing room only. Every piece of floor was covered by a patient when we were in City Hall. If we were still doing that, then we can negotiate better compromises.
Right.
But it doesn't matter when activists or lobbyists or advocates go in to meet with council members. If they're not speaking for a constituency, or rather if they're not seen as speaking for a constituency, then it's just one guy.
Doesn't
and
matter.
they say, well, Yami, we hear what you're saying, but, there's a whole big city out there. But if every time that the city council had this issue on their agenda, they were hearing from people in the district, and the council chambers were packed, and there was an outcry in the media, then we would have more leverage. And so I want to say to people who are frustrated that the answer is roll up your sleeves and get busy again and get back to City Hall. And if
That's
there are
right.
people who don't like where we're at with Measure D, it's your job to go change it.
That's right. If you
Well,
don't like
that's-
something, change it, and that's what I'm going to do.
It used to be, and I don't want to beat this drum too much, but it used to be in the early days, in 2004 and 2005, when we were at Los Angeles City Hall, the city council responded to us. They were receptive, and the reason they were receptive not was because we were so smart or slick. It was because every time this issue came up, we packed City Hall.
With
Every
patience.
time we put an action alert, they got dozens and dozens of phone calls and emails into each of the district offices.
Real
And
patience.
it's really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and from patients, not from business owners, from patients.
For
And it made a
patients.
huge difference.
Well, we're going to take a break and come back and continue this discussion and wrap up, although that was what we wanted to get in about our local situation here. We'll take a break. We'll be back after to finish up this year.
You are listening to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Upcoming shows to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Welcome to FY. It's Dimitri Young here with Robert Fick. Hey everybody, welcome to Talking Marijuana.
Hi, everybody. Crabman's Rock and Roll Revival featuring Frazier Smith is on the air, in your hair, and going out everywhere around the world.
I'm Gary Garver, live from the John Lovitz Comedy Club.
This is the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Hi, John Lovitz here. It's time to put laughter back into your life. Check out the John Lovitz Comedy Club, located in the heart of Universal Studios City Walk, Los Angeles, not Orlando. For tickets, go to thejohnlovitzcomedyclub.com.
You are listening to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
And welcome back to our final segment of 2013. We're going to take a couple weeks off for Christmas and New Year's, and we'll be back in the beginning of January with new installments of Talking Marijuana. Dan, you were mentioning while we were off camera that you've had a real significant experience with CBDs.
Well, I'm not me personally, but I got an email from a friend of mine, my friend Jeremy, who said that he had a friend who had cancer and wanted to know more about
this alternative.
Any sort of pain relief that can come from marijuana. And I told him about CBDs and gave him a little bit of just pointed him in the right direction. And he sent me an email the other day and said that I saved his friend's life, and that
That's awesome.
He's gotten a lot of pain relief out of the CBDs and did all the research, and they're deep into it now.
Right. We have that is
Good
just
things come out from hanging with
such
us.
an amazing story. And again, Dan is a comedian. Came in sitting on this panel with us because you were interested in what we were talking about, really, in the early days. That's why you were excited to come and sit with us. And, you've helped someone deeply.
Yeah.
And it's really amazing, and I just feel so good about that. And we've been talking about CBDs all year long, and the help that they've brought to children across the country. Certainly the children are really finding great comfort and relief from this.
Spread the word around about CBDs.
So you never know who you touch. Dan, has been on this show. He's learned a few things to tell to people. If you've been on this show and you've heard some things that have, sparked your imaginations and led you to some knowledge that you didn't know, pass that knowledge along. That's how we continue to grow. And
It's all about education. It's about knowing what's really going on.
And that's why we talk about marijuana.
Exactly. That's what Talking Marijuana is all about.
That's what
it's
we're talking
education and
about.
information.
We have a segment on this show called Dope of the Week that we like to hit every week. We had a couple of great runners-up this week. Let's see if I can go to my Instagram or Instapaper or Insta, whatever the hell is Insta on my iPad these days. And that would be, this is a great one. There's two of them, so we'll just start with this one. Headline from This is from Time by Melissa Locker. She writes, Stoner Santa busted with 20 pounds of weed wrapped as Christmas presents. I have to say, I've heard stories like this in the past, but we're in a whole different environment now. We have legal states and medical marijuana, and this kind of story coming out now.
Is this guy leaving it in people's living room?
It's a really short article. Let me go for it. Sure, he looks cute, but giving a pet as a gift doesn't always work out as planned. I don't know. Randy.
Yep, that's a different story, Barry.
No, it's not. That's the first line on this. Anyway, Randy Jesus Valdivia had a car full of Christmas presents when the cops pulled him over. After a search of the vehicle, police arrested him on charges of possession with intent to deliver a lot more than just Christmas cheer. He had 20 pounds of pot wrapped up in pretty Christmas paper. Guess somebody won't be getting their Christmas presents this year. Police patrolling Interstate 80 outside of State College, Pennsylvania, not a legal state in any way at this point, pulled Valdivia over after observing his minivan engaged in, quote, criminal activity indicators.
What the hell
I don't
is
know what the
that?
hell that means.
I don't understand what that was either.
But whatever, that's
Like
all
he
they
was
say on here.
swaying or something?
The Florida man consented to a search of his 2014 Dodge
What a dumb
Caravan, which he should never have done, which is when the police discovered the gift wrap boxes filled with 40 vacuum-sealed plastic bags filled with approximately $160,000 worth of marijuana. Valdivia was arrested, put on Santa's naughty list, and charged with the felony of possession with intent to deliver. He was then taken to the County Center Correctional Facility for arraignment. A silly Santa. That's
But
just
you know what?
Santa.
If it was vacuum sealed, I wonder how they figured it out. They must have opened the bag because if it's vacuum sealed, they wouldn't be able to smell it.
How would they smell it?
Something's going on in
They
that story. that's allowed him to
searched
pull him
through
over.
his. They searched through because he was. Because they said that they found a reason to, but
But he consented to a search, so
But
yeah,
you know
dumb
what?
him.
Let me just say this for everyone listening. I do not consent to a search.
Yes, exactly.
That's the answer to that question. I do not consent to a search.
Remember that for 2013
that's
and
how
14.
you say it.
I
That's how
do
you
not
say it.
consent to a
And
search.
they may go ahead and still search your vehicle,
But you're preserving
you've
your
already
rights for
preserved
You're
your
right.
rights by saying, I do not consent. You have to say that, never consent. And here we go with another of these dope of the
Let me
week.
just quote Jay-Z real quick.
Do it.
Okay.
I ain't a lawyer, but I know a little bit, enough that you won't illegally search my shit.
I do not consent.
I do not consent.
Okay, this comes...
I think I want to throw out there as well. Always phone cops. Always.
Always phone.
Turn on your
Always
iPhone
have-
or
there's
Android.
apps out there that are designed to film it. There are apps that can actually record and send straight to the internet. So even if they grab your phone and delete the footage, you can already have it online. They can't do shit about that.
In those states that aren't protected in any way, shape, or form, that is a very
Protect
good idea,
yourself.
as well as in states that are protected. Just so we get it in, I have this other dope couple of the week. Teen parents
Oh God.
and
yes,
a grandfather
This is awful.
let a toddler smoke marijuana, authorities say. This comes from NBC News. Gil Agenter, I hope I said his name right. 2 teenage parents have been arrested after being accused of letting their 23-month-old child smoke marijuana in upstate New York. George Kelsey, 18, and Jessica Kelsey, 17, and her father, Don
Stupid.
Baker, 54.
And dumb.
All of Mayfield were charged with second-degree reckless endangerment and endangering the welfare of a child, they confirmed to NBC News. The adults helped, observed, or encouraged
The
the
babies.
tot to smoke pot from a lighted bowl at the family's apartment on December 5th. They were arrested.
Creepy.
They were arrested.
Creepy, I know.
The child and another sibling were taken into state custody. Is that really worth it? Why would you? That is just the
That's so
dopiest.
stupid. That's the worst dope of the
I'm not
week
saying
we've
that they
had.
should do it at all, but how did they get caught?
Yeah,
They probably filmed it, or the neighbors saw them,
It
or
must
something.
have been a neighbor or something.
Yeah.
That
I
again, we
hope
have
they
some
didn't put
loose
this on Facebook.
Or they
information
filmed it
on
and put it
that.
on Facebook. You know, these people are so stupid. They're stupid enough to try to get a baby to smoke some pot. They're stupid enough to film it and then put it on Facebook or do whatever. Because how else would people have known?
I don't know.
I cannot
that's why-
imagine having a baby, by the way, when I was 17. Like, you know, maybe that person just needs some time to, I don't know, something. It's crazy. What's with a
Crazy
54-year-old?
stuff.
You should know better.
The other great news, now we're away from Dope of the Week. The other great news before we leave 2013, one of the great events of 2013 is that Uruguay legalized marijuana.
And the
They-
United Nations is pushing back.
So they tout themselves as being the first country to legalize marijuana. And I was saying this to people as I was getting ready for the show, and somebody said to me, you know, they keep saying they're the first country to legalize marijuana. They're the first country. They're not really, but nobody wants to talk about the other country that's done it. And I was like, well, who's that? And my friend said, North Korea. And I was like, really?
North Korea
Well,
legalized pot?
I did. I went and I looked online, and although I have to say I found nowhere where it said that it is perfectly legal, here's a HuffPost article from Hunter Stewart. When it comes to marijuana, North Korea appears to have liberal policy of tolerance. North Korea's apparent stance on marijuana may surprise you. According to multiple reports from defectors, visitors, and experts, North Korea either has no law against the sale and consumption of weed, or it has a law that is largely unenforced.
No wonder Dennis Rodman goes there.
Yeah. That was my first thought, too. Dennis was like, I'm going. But anyway,
Well, good for North Korea. At least they're doing something, right?
one thing, good for North
I
Korea.
want to see the cannabis cup in North Korea. That would be awesome.
That would be
Oh,
awesome.
God.
Or I'm sure it will be in Uruguay soon. But Uruguay's presidents accused the head of the UN International Narcotics Control Board, the INCB, of lying and double standards after the official claimed the country did not consult the anti-drug body before legalizing marijuana. The chief Uruguay's president rejected the criticism, saying that he's ready to discuss the law to anyone. Tell that old man to stop lying, he said in an interview. Let him come to Uruguay and meet me whenever he wishes. Anybody can meet and talk to me, and whoever says he couldn't meet me tells lies, blatant lies.
He's a badass, that one.
But
I like
he
him.
questions the hypocrisy of this board because we've legalized marijuana in Colorado and Washington, and no one's coming down on our head quite yet. And of course, North Korea sells it, and no one's
saying anything about
starting
them,
any wars with them over this. But we'll be watching Uruguay. We're very happy about that, and we hope to see more countries sort of move that way in the years to come.
I'm gonna start. I'm gonna put together a comedy festival
in Uruguay.
Yeah,
oh, that'd
start
be cool.
putting that together right now.
They're gonna love that. By the way, it's only the state or the country that is going to be able to give out the marijuana or sell the marijuana.
It's
It'll
government
be like
control.
Washington.
Government control.
It's government
So it'll be
control.
like Washington.
Well, Washington will have private businesses doing it and growing it.
But it's
But
still
they'll be
all going to
regulated.
come from the.
We got 2 minutes left, baby. So
We got 2 minutes left.
2 minutes
so
left.
with that, we just
Say Merry Christmas, Happy New
Happy
Year,
holidays, Happy New
blessings
Year.
to everyone.
an old happy
Happy
Hanukkah to you.
Hanukkah.
Happy
Let's see,
Hanukkah.
we did Thanksgiving, but this is the end of
Human Life Day.
2000.
Happy Human Life Day.
You guys be safe out there.
Be
Don't
safe.
be a dope of the week.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's going to be our bumper sticker. Don't be dope of the week. Talking marijuana.
Yeah.
Have a great new year and
Thank
stay
you.
with us as we continue on with our talks. And thanks for joining us in 2013. Don, have a great new year out there in Sacramento.
Thanks,
And
Barry.
you're welcome. And we'll see y'all in a few weeks.
All right.
Pura vida.
Pura vida.
You are listening to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Upcoming shows to the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.
Welcome to FY. It's Dimitri Young here with Robert Fick. Hey everybody, welcome to Talking Marijuana.
Hi, everybody. Crabman's Rock and Roll Revival featuring Frazier Smith is on the air, in your hair, and going out everywhere around the world.
I'm Gary Garver, live from the John Lovitz Comedy Club.
This is the John Lovitz Vodcast Network.